In an earlier video, I talked about strength from 1,000 adversities. That's the exact opposite of death from 1,000 cuts. We build our strengths over time. It doesn't happen overnight. Parents need to really understand that. They need to understand that they help build their children into strong adults, strength of mind, strength of body, strength of spirit, over time, over a very long period of time, starting when their kids are just babies. That's how you build those strengths. That's when you start. In this video, I want to share some of the things my wife and I did with our son to build his strengths. We started when he was very young, and just as important, we didn't stop until he left our home headed for college. Of course, the way we did that drastically changed as the years went by. When he was just a baby, the way we did that really bore no relation to the way we challenged him to build his strengths when he was a late teenager, 16 or 17 or 18 years old. But there is one way we did that with him as a very young child that had a great deal in common with the way we did that when he was much older. And that was through extracurricular activities. As always, if you like what you hear, please share it with a friend, and please subscribe to my channel. I hope to get a publisher interested in my book, and your being a part of my channel will go a long way in convincing a publisher to do just that. In my opinion, raising an independent, confident, good decision maker is a parent's best approach to readying their children for life, preparing them to live their best life. Okay, let's back to the video. First, let me define how I look at what I think are extracurricular activities. These are generally thought of as those activities that occur at school but outside of the classroom, clubs and sports. But extracurricular can also mean that which occurs outside of the normal routine. So with those two concepts, school activities but not classroom related, and two, activities outside of your normal routine, let's talk about some of the examples of how my wife and I used these extracurricular activities in all sorts of ways to help our son with his development on his path to becoming an independent, confident, good decision maker. Now, one of the first of these activities we used were sports clubs. For our son, it was soccer. I think he was just 6 years old when we signed him up for a recreational soccer league. Now it's not real soccer. They had one practice, and I use that term practice loosely, a week, mostly to get to know their teammates and to do some basic soccer drills. Games it was a laugh riot for parents. The kids were so young, they didn't maintain positions. It was basically like a ball, a swarm of kids around the ball, just kicking at it and hoping it went in the right direction. There are no goalies, no positions, nobody keeping track of goals. It's just a fun introduction to the game of soccer for little kids. Now, here's how this seemingly silly kid activity is actually very developmental. First, they had to go to practice, a set time, set place every week. They had a coach. Now, coach is very similar in some ways to a kindergarten or first grade teacher, but here's what's important. It was a different adult that they needed to pay attention to, that they could ask questions, they could learn from. Although similar in some ways to a school teacher, it wasn't a teacher. It was an adult outside of school and outside of mom and dad that they needed to pay attention to. That's important to a young child. You can kind of think of it like a boss, their first boss. The earlier you can teach your kids to understand an authority figure, a different type of authority figure than they were probably used to outside of teachers and mom and dad, the better for them when that happens. The last few generations don't seem to fully grasp how to maintain a positive relationship with their bosses. What's acceptable and what's not. Help your kids from a very young age start to develop those skills. Now, here's another benefit of those sports clubs outside of school. It's all new kids outside of your child's normal social circle. Some kids have a great deal of trouble making friends. Over the years, I've purposely asked many parents and kids when I see them having trouble introducing themselves to people. I always ask them, especially the parents, about the activities their kids did when they were very young. Now, guess what? No big surprise. Most of them didn't engage in extracurricular activities at a young age. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but new activities, new kids, they don't know. This is an early and easy way to put your son or daughter in an uncomfortable situation, and a safe way to do it. Help them to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. The earlier they start, the easier this becomes, and the more comfortable they become with this challenge over time. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now, my wife and I did this with recreational club sports, but that's just one way. We could have done it with a cooking club, learn how to cook, drawing, painting, dance, music, whatever. If you happen to live in a small town and you don't have many kids club choices, make an effort, mom and dad, to start a club. Here's a super simple one that generally is a big hit: a music club, percussion specifically. Google drum circle. When I lived in Atlanta, I would occasionally see these drum circles form in the main city downtown park, Piedmont Park. Sometimes there'd be 30 or 40 people show up. It's crazy to watch. Again, Google drum circle. Any parent can start a simple drum circle club using virtually anything as a percussion instrument: a box, sticks, tin can. Anything that makes a sound adds to the overall circle. Now, what I find most cool about this is that if you do this with young kids, in a group of young kids to start, once they learn the basics of how to contribute to the circle, they can join an adult circle and they'll be welcomed with open arms. I mean, trust me, the kind of people that organize a drum circle, they're the welcoming type. Imagine that. Imagine your 7 or 8-year-old walking up to a drum circle with all adults, carrying a simple bongo drum, and being met with all smiles, likely no hesitation from the group to let them join in. These extracurricular clubs outside of school can be amazing for your young kids. Helps them develop self-confidence, self-discipline, self-control, self-respect. You're seeing a pattern here, I'm sure. Those are the things a parent using the ICD parenting approach are purposefully trying to develop in their kids, starting when they're very young. Now, here's another beauty thing of extracurricular activities. They evolve with your child. They evolve based on the uniqueness of your child and along with the age of your child. Your child is unique. As a parent, you are in the best position to understand your child's uniqueness. No one will ever know your child better than you. Now, I talked about balance in one of my very first videos. Use extracurricular activities to help develop those aspects of your child that are the weakest. If your son or daughter seems to have a difficult time making friends, find an activity that they're comfortable with, but put them with all new kids doing it. If your daughter has no problem making friends, but isn't as active physically as you like, find a kids fitness class. Maybe have a friend join her to that group. Maybe a group that meets in a local park or local YMCA. It doesn't matter. Focus on something that they are comfortable with, something they love, have a particular talent in, and use that as a gateway to introduce them into an activity that will help them develop one of their weaknesses. Again, maybe your son is strong for his age and has a ton of energy. A karate class could help them learn to focus that energy, help them to develop patience and understanding for other kids that aren't as strong or fit. That's the beauty of extracurricular activities. Any group activity can and should address at least two of your child, of the core strengths: physical, mental, and spiritual, emotional. It doesn't matter if it's a kid's cooking class, painting, drawing, jujitsu, archery. It doesn't matter. The point, the objective as a parent, is to prepare your kids for life as adults. Will they develop a lifelong love of any particular activity? Maybe. Great if they do, but that's not the point. Remember what I started with here: strength from 1,000 adversities. That's what you're trying to do. Use extracurricular activities to challenge your kids. Challenge them in new and different ways through these activities. Bring adversity into their lives so that they will learn how to deal with it. Making your child's life easy is wrong. It's bad. It's not preparing them for real life as an adult. Because real life is uncomfortable. It's disorganized. It's dirty and smelly and difficult in ways that we could never have imagined when we were kids. The more you, as a parent, work to make your child's life easy, the less prepared they'll be for the big bad world. Your child will become strong over time. Strength from 1,000 adversities is all about time. You can't face 1,000 adversities in a day, in a week, or a month. The first 1,000 adversities might take your child 10 years to reach. Now, as they get older, they'll likely reach 5,000 adversities in half the time it took them to reach 1,000. Because as we get older, life gets more complicated. That's the reason you need to start introducing adversities to your kids when they're very young. To wrap this up, let me use this analogy. When you learn to juggle, you start with just one ball. That's right, just one ball. When you get comfortable with one ball, you add another, and then another, and so on. That's what you're doing for your kids. Start small and simple when challenging them with something new and uncomfortable. And as they get used to it, add another challenge, another adversity. Over time, they'll develop the strengths they need to live a happy, healthy, productive life. If you start this when they're very young, you'll be amazed at how strong they become in all the ways that matter. Being an independent, confident, good decision maker doesn't happen overnight. Start small and start early. It doesn't matter how old your child is. Start today. Thanks for listening.